It was an interesting process with this book. I was asked to be a fellow at the Kennedy School, where you're a graduate, and they, at the Shorenstein Center, and they asked me to be a fellow there. I said, what do I have to do? And they said, nothing. But write something. And I said, well, you don't want me to teach anything? I said, well, you can have a study group and teach something there. So I had a study group of 14 great kids from the Kennedy School and undergraduates, and I taught them to research my book. Basically, the book starts as a response to Bernie Goldberg and Ann Coulter about this myth of the liberal bias in the media. And kind of the premise of the whole book, the start of the book, is that asking whether there's a liberal or conservative bias in the mainstream media is like asking if the problem with Al-Qaeda is that they use too much oil in their hummus. The problem with Al-Qaeda is they want to kill us. The biases of the mainstream media there are many, many biases in sensationalism, horse race, get it first, do it cheap. There's just so many more important biases, and the idea that there's a liberal bias in the media that is just ridiculous. All you have to do is look at the coverage of Clinton. I mean, especially during the Monica thing, it was 24/7 Monica, and there were some news organizations that did not succumb to that temptation. I like to cite them wherever I go. Sailing Magazine, American Grocer Monthly, Jugs, and Big Butt, which is ironic because I thought Big Butt, had a story. And then if you look at the 2000 campaign, the idea that there was a bias on behalf of Gore is ridiculous. Remember in the one of the debates, Gore said that he had gone to Texas to go to a disaster with James Lee Witt, the head of FEMA. It turned out he hadn't gone to that disaster with James Lee Witt. He went with a deputy of James Lee Witt. He went to 17 other disasters with James Lee Witt, not that one. Press jumps all over him. He's a liar. It was as if James Lee Witt was the most popular man in America, and Gore was lying just to get some of that James Lee Witt magic, to rub off on him. Another one of the 2000 debates, Bush says this, and this is a quote. By far, the vast majority of my tax cut goes to those at the bottom. By far, a vast majority of my tax cut goes to those at the bottom. Nothing from the press, not a thing. And is it because they have a conservative bias? I don't think so. I think their attitude was, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. Leave him alone. He doesn't know. And so now we have this new tax cut, and every tax cut, of course, is going to the people at the top, and Bill has supported all of those tax cuts. And they'll do great things. First of all, on the economy. Let me talk one thing about the economy. I love statistics because they never lie. Numbers never lie. In the 6 years plus that the two Bushes have been president, there have been actually negative net jobs. Not one new net job has been created. Extrapolating on that, if the Bushes had headed this country from the very beginning, our country's inception, to the present time, not one American would have ever worked. Not one. So, they do this, sometimes they still say it, that the bottom gets the biggest tax cut. Look, someone making $26,000 gets their taxes 100% tax cut. All their income taxes are cut by this. 100% tax cut. Well, of their income tax. And maybe they're paying $200 in income tax. And, oh, Dick Cheney, he's only getting an 8% cut. Look, 100% cut for the waitress. And only an 8% cut for Dick Cheney, which is like $1 million or $500,000, whatever it is. 100,000. Thank you, Molly. Sometimes I overstate. But this person making $26,000, maybe a single mother, going to lose her Medicaid, going to lose her Medicaid for her kids, is going to pay more in state taxes because their states are in terrible shape. The kids are going to have, there's going to be less money going into schools. Kentucky's releasing prisoners. I mean, this is crazy what we're doing. And this huge, huge deficit. Remember, Bush said when we first went in the deficit with him, he said, well, I said during the campaign that, you know, the only way we go into deficit is if we had a recession, a national emergency, or war. Well, I guess I hit the trifecta, right? Remember he said that? Except, you know what? He didn't say that during the campaign. Washington Post looked back, he never said it. One person did say it, was Al Gore. Bush, not great with language. Evildoers, for example. Remember when he first started using evildoers? And the rest of the administration felt they had to use evildoers too? It was really fun to watch, like Dick Cheney have to slip in evildoers. It was like, this is not a war against Islam. This is an effort to eradicate the evildoers. So the mainstream media does not have a bias, left or right. There is, however, a right-wing media, and we know who they are. The Wall Street Journal editorial page, talk radio, which talks so eloquently about Bill, Fox, fair and balanced, talk about Orwellian. I mean, come on. And I think they go back into create an echo effect in the media. And as a result, I think the whole media has moved to the right. Now, I answer a couple of books, and that's part of the right-wing media, too, and I know that you publishers are going to start publishing more right-wing books for, you know, the bulk sales so that Richard Mellon Scaife can, you know, use Mona Charon's books for mulch. But Ann Coulter's book. I write a chapter on Ann Coulter, and she brags about having 752 footnotes. Actually, she has no footnotes. She has endnotes. There's a difference, because you don't check the endnotes, especially, I think, her readers, or she at least depends on that. For example, let me quote from her book. After Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote an opinion contrary to the clearly expressed position of the New York Times editorial page, the Times responded with an editorial on Thomas titled "The Youngest, Cruelest Justice." That was actually the headline on a lead editorial in the newspaper of record. Thomas is not engaged on the substance of his judicial philosophy. He is called a colored lawn jockey for conservative white interests, race trader, black snake, chicken and biscuit eating Uncle Tom, house Negro and handkerchief head, Benedict Arnold and Judas Iscariot. All this from the tireless opponents of intolerance. Now, what percentage of her readers think that the New York Times, from this paragraph, called Clarence Thomas a chicken and biscuit eating Uncle Tom? I'll bet you like 99%. Well, this isn't from the New York Times. She endnotes them, and then you have to go back and find, oh, I see, this was a Playboy interview with somebody. Or, oh, I see, this was an SCLC conference. She does this all the time. Also, I'm kind of an expert on it because in a New York Observer article she said that we were friendly. I had met her once, and I guess I made the mistake of not just saying to her, "You're horrible. I hate you." And instead, I was cordial, so therefore I showed up as one of her friends. So in my book, I have a little thing. I say, even people Coulter consider friends says she's a lying bitch, one. A horror show of epic proportions, two, oh, the poor thing, and a bitch. And then the notes are on the bottom of the page, footnotes. One was me and my wife. Two is I bid. Oh, the poor thing is my wife to me. And the fourth is to another friend. I don't want to run over my time, but the book is very wide-ranging and it gets into a lot of things. And one of whom, and I know you don't like name-calling, and I know that you say you retract everything, but I do have Bill on the cover, and I want to just justify it, okay? Can I borrow your water? No? Molly? Oh, you're out? Thanks. Thanks.
Taste it first.
Yeah. Because I really need to tell this right. Okay, and Bill, you know a little bit of this story. A couple of years ago, I'm watching C-SPAN, which I love to watch. And I see Bill promoting his book, No Spin Zone. And he's on, it's a format like this, actually. It's a moderator, just with him, though. And he says, the moderator says something like, you hosted Inside Edition, which was a tabloid show. And Bill says, tabloid show, we won 2 Peabodys. And the guy said, well, yeah, but it was, you got to admit, it was kind of a tabloid show. And he goes, Peabody's only the most prestigious award in journalism. We won 2 of them. The guy says, well, yeah, but it had kind of a tabloidy format. And he says, you want us to give our 2 Peabodys back? So I'm watching this, and I'm going like, Inside Edition never won a Peabody. So I nexus Peabody and Inside Edition. And I do get 3 hits, and they're all Bill saying on his show that Inside Edition had won the Peabody. Here's one from August 30th. I anchored a program called Inside Edition, which has won a Peabody Award. There it won 1. May 8th, you won 2. Well, all I've got to say is that Inside Edition has won, I believe, you did qualify it, 2 Peabody Awards, the highest journalism award in the country. And then on May 19th, 2000, you go into this long thing about, someone says it's, Neville says, he says you hosted Inside Edition, you say correct, which is considered a tabloid show, you say by whom? By many people, does that mean? And then you say we throw the Peabody Awards back, we won Peabody Awards. So I go to the Peabody website and look for Inside Edition Peabody Awards, and there aren't any, and I call the Peabody people and I said, did you guys give Inside Edition a Peabody? And there was some laughter, and you know, because I'm thinking, what was it for? You know, How Bare is Too Bare, or you know, something on Madonna's first, you know, the father of her first baby, maybe you won it for. But they say no, they've never won it. So I call Bill, and you were really nice. You called me back, and you said, yeah, what is it, Al? And it was very warm. And I said, I saw you on C-SPAN. You said you won, Inside Edition won 2 Peabodys. Well, we did. I said, well, you really should talk to the Peabody people about that, because they don't think you did. And he said, I'll call you back. Calls me back 5 minutes. You remember this? He says, okay, it was a poke. I say, a poke? He said, yeah, it's just as prestigious as the Peabody. I said, so there are 2 most prestigious awards in journalism. He says, Al, it's very, very prestigious. I said, well, okay, don't you think it's odd that you got it wrong about a journalism award? And he says, Al, if you want to go after me, go ahead. So I say, okay. So I call the Washington Post. I call Lloyd Grove at the Washington Post, and I tell him the whole thing, and he calls Bill, and Bill says Al has a jihad against me or something, so I got a poke. Now, Now, Bill, see, I had sort of